Did you all know that Pinsir doesn't learn a single stab move in GSC, aside from Hidden Power Bug? Yeah, I didn't know what Game Freak was thinking either. Like, why? Why'd you do that? Pinsir is one of the most dangerous Pokemon in GSC Unreused, and it really isn't hard to see why just from looking at its stats. While Pinsir was forgotten for a few years, it came roaring back in 2022. There's like two key reasons that I will go over later. Its attack stat is one of the highest in the metagame, and the highest of anything with Sword Stance. Unboosted, Pinsir doesn't hit too hard, but after one Sword Stance, there are very few Pokemon that it can't 2-hit KO. While it doesn't have any stab moves outside of Hidden Power Bug, Double Edge and Hidden Power Ground have fantastic coverage in GSC Unreused. Hidden Power Ground hits normal resistant Pokemon such as Omastar, Haunter, and Magneton, while Double Edge hits everything else really hard. Hidden Power Bug is no longer used on Pinsir, because without Hidden Power Ground, Pinsir is completely walled by Haunter, and worse off against Pokemon like Nidoqueen, Quillfish, and Omastar. Pinsir's primary set is Sword Stance, Hidden Power Ground, Double Edge, and then either Body Slam to paralyze Jumpluff or Crobat switch-ins, or Rock Throw. Yeah, you heard me right, Rock Throw. At +2, Rock Throw Oko Scyther, who is a lot of offensive teams' sole answer to Pinsir. I'm being serious by the way, Rock Throw Pinsir has been legitimately used in tournaments. But anyway, Pinsir has very limited counterplay when used well, all because of its sheer strength after one Sword Stance boost. It 2-hit KOs Pokemon like Granbull, Hypno, Nidoqueen, and Gyarados at +2. The few counters to Pinsir can either be ruined by Body Slam paralysis, like Jumpluff, or they are hard to fit on teams, like Shuckle. While Mr. Mime and Haunter can outspeed and threaten Pinsir, they again get thrashed by a boosted Pinsir. Pinsir is also pretty fast with an 85 base speed tier, which lets it outspeed Pokemon like Nidoqueen, Gyarados, Blastoise, and Kabutops. It also speed ties with Quillfish, and is able to massively threaten it with boosted Hidden Power Ground. Pinsir is a big threat to most offensive teams, because of its speed and their lack of answers to it. It is also very good against bulky teams that don't have Shuckle on them. Pinsir's physical bulk is also quite solid, letting it take hits from Pokemon like Granbull in a pinch. This also means it isn't too fearful of stab flying type moves from Pokemon like Scyther. While Pinsir's special defense is noticeably worse, it is decent at switching into Hypno at least. Pinsir's typing also grants it a useful ground resistance. Now, a ground resistance doesn't sound too amazing at first, but it actually ends up being Pinsir's primary niche, and the main reason it's a great Pokemon these days. And why is that? I'll tell you in one word: Piloswine. Piloswine is an incredibly dominant and common Pokemon in GSC Unreused. It has very few switch-ins and it beats an incredible amount of the Pokemon. Piloswine is a huge component of many offensive teams' defensive core, with them relying on Piloswine to check Pokemon like Mr. Mime, Haunter, and Electabuzz. The only Pokemon that can switch into Piloswine and then offensively threaten the rest of its team are Gyarados, Slowbro, and you guessed it, Pinsir. Pinsir resists Earthquake and isn't that threatened by Ice Beam, making it a solid switch in. And if Pinsir switches in as Piloswine uses Rest, that's even better. It can then use Piloswine as an opportunity to use Swords Dance and threaten the rest of its team. This is an amazing and unique niche that no other setup sweeper can do. Pinsir is already pretty scary for offensive teams, but Piloswine offenses really hate this thing. Pinsir's ground resistance also means it can set up all over Ice Beam variants of Nidoqueen, which can potentially be game changing. As a result, Pinsir is one of the two primary Sword Stance sweepers in GSC Unreused, alongside Scyther, being a great addition to offensive teams that need to handle Piloswine. It can be used on standard offensive teams, or in HO teams as their Piloswine answer. Just like Scyther, Pinsir greatly appreciates screen support from Pokemon like Electrode and Hypno. Some teams even stack Scyther and Pinsir for a dual sweeper combination. Now, it might just seem like Pinsir is a worse Scyther, but that isn't really the case. I already went over how Pinsir takes advantage of Piloswine, which Scyther can't do at all, but Pinsir also lacks weaknesses to Ice and Electric, making it superior against Pokemon like Lantern. Pinsir's higher attack also means it hits Pokemon like Granbull and Gyarados harder with its normal type moves than Scyther would with Double Edge. While Pinsir is still worse than Scyther overall, Pinsir's advantages keep it a very relevant threat in today's metagame. After Pinsir's history in GSC Unreused, it's kinda had a redemption arc. In the early days of GSC Unreused, Pinsir was just kinda seen as okay. Its most valuable trait early on was defensively checking and setting up on Ice Beam Nidoqueen, which used to be the most common variant. As time went on though, people realised Pinsir was kinda ass, with Fire Blast Nidoqueen becoming the most common variant and Pokemon like Scyther and Haunter being all over the place. It was hard to make consistent use out of Pinsir. Hidden Power Ground was never used on Pinsir for years, and people used crappy sets with Hidden Power Bug and Submission. Yeah, Submission, the move that nobody likes. With Hidden Power Bug, Pinsir becomes hard countered by Haunter, and better checked by Pokemon like Nidoqueen and Quillfish. Having to rely on Submission to hit Pokemon like Omastar and Magneton was also pretty cringe because of the recoil and accuracy. Pinsir was just super inconsistent and rarely worth using when the more consistent Scyther existed. It wasn't until 2022 that Pinsir made a comeback in GSC Unreused. Early on in the year, people finally realised how threatening Hidden Power Ground could be on Pinsir, and so they finally stopped using Hidden Power Bug. Slowbro, the main reason to use Hidden Power Bug, had dropped off significantly, and the other psychic types got smashed by boosted normal moves anyway. This is also around the time Piloswine reared its ugly head, and people realised that Pinsir could take advantage of it. With how much Piloswine offenses were being spammed, it was prime time for Pinsir. It then proved itself in tournaments, getting decent usage into sets in UUPLX and UUSD3. While not a top tier Pokemon, Pinsir has a unique and highly valuable niche in GSC Unreused, and things look like they will get even better for it from here on out. You go, Pinsir. You continue to be good. I love you.